Hi and welcome to this week's video, and this week we're going to be reshelling a Game Boy Advance with an eXtremeRate shell. And while we're at it, we're also throwing an IPS screen. So this is the kit that I've got. I'll link it in the description. So I've gone for the smoky grey. It comes with all the buttons that you need. It also comes with the pads and all the little bits to attach to the rear of the shell as well. It comes with the screwdrivers to be able to take apart, a replacement screen, stickers, and even new screws. And this is the IPS screen that I picked up. I'll also link this in the description, and this also comes with another screen. This is the board and the screen, and we'll pop this together in a little bit. So first off, this is the Game Boy Advance we're going to be using, so it's fully working. We just need to start taking it apart, so I'm just going to use my screwdriver set. So we'll just get the tri-wing screws out first. So there's 6 screws that need to be taken out. Just take all them out. And then at the bottom is a crosshead screw. Then the back peels off nice and simple, nothing attached to the rear. We just need to disconnect the ribbon cable to the top, and then there's 2 screws either side, and then the motherboard lifts out. Nice and easy. Quick look over, it looks in pretty decent condition. We'll just give the board a quick clean over with isopropyl. I'm going to put a little bit extra in the shoulder buttons, just to give these a good clean so I know that they're going to be working fine. Drop the isopropyl into it and then just press the button a couple of times just so it works its way in. And we'll also give the card reader a good clean so we know the games are going to play perfect. And then we'll also put a little bit more isopropyl into the volume wheel and then spin it round so we know the sound's going to be working perfect too. So even though it was working fine inside, I'm just going to take the switch apart, and then we know that this is going to be working perfect for the next 20 plus years. So all we need to do is to get a little bit of flux on one of the ends, and then we've got some solder wick and then our hot iron, and then we'll just hold it on for a couple of seconds just to remove all of the solder. We'll keep holding it on. If it's decent solder wick, it will wick it away nice and easy. And then once that's done, we'll be able to get the tweezers underneath and then gently work it out. So I'll just reposition the camera so we can get a little bit of a better position, and then we just need to get the tweezers to pull it away, and once it's pulled away it will lift up over this plastic bit and it will release, and then there we go, we'll be able to lift the metal casing up and over. Now it's open, we're able to remove the switch, take it away, and we can see there's a lot of grime in there. Contacts are also quite dirty, so it was probably a good idea to take it away, to open it up and give it a good clean. So we'll give it a quick clean with isopropyl first, see if any of the loose grime comes off, which a little bit does but not much. So we need to go a little bit more heavy duty. So I've got this fiberglass pen, so we just gently give it a rub, getting it right in there. We don't want to go too rough because we don't want to be taking away all of the trace, but we just want to take off the top layer where it's all very dirty. Keep going back and forward, and as you can see straight away, cleaning up really well. And then we'll just give it another clean with isopropyl, removing any of the fiberglass out the way, because we don't want to be touching or inhaling any of that. And we can move on to the switch. So as you can see, the switch is also very dirty. So we'll just spin it round to get it into position, and then we'll give it a little clean with isopropyl. These 2 prongs are very, very delicate. So you just have to be very careful. You don't want to be bending them. And they're already looking a little bit better. I'll just give them a quick wipe with the brush very carefully. And each of the ends are looking very fine. Another final clean, and then that should be fine. We'll be able to put this back into position. So we just pick up the switch that we just give a clean, and as you can see there, it's really clean now. So we just carefully place in the part that was removed, push it down gently, don't want to push it too hard and bend the prongs. And then we'll just bend back over this metal tab that we took off, and then all we need to do is push it down in the corner, and it should just clip underneath the plastic where we released it from. Then we'll just apply a little bit more flux, and then we'll get our soldering iron, and then all we need to do is add a little bit of solder to the pad, and then this will make it nice and secure. And we just give it a quick move, and as you can see, it's moving really smooth, and I'm expecting that to be fully working now. And we give it another clean of isopropyl just around the area with a little bit of flux. So just to give it a quick test, so I just pop the motherboard into the housing, connecting up the screen. I then attach the back to make sure the battery terminals come through, put some batteries in, turn it on, and as you can see it's turning on. And then we'll just give it a little mess, flip it on and off, and every time it's working perfect. There's no stuttering, so we've got a fully working switch. So now moving on, we're going to now install the screen. So we just need to get all the parts out. So it comes with a lot. There wasn't really any decent instructions, so I had to sort of have a little dig around. First thing we need to do is solder these points. So this is to be able to adjust the brightness of the screen. So just a bit of solder on these pads which are highlighted on the screen. And then a little bit of solder on these 3 pads of the motherboard. And we'll just attach the ribbon cable to the screen, and it's going to fit in this position. So back to the shell. So we just get all the parts out. So it comes with all the buttons, all the shoulder buttons, the sidebars. We pop this little bit in which is for the battery diffuser. And then we'll put the A and B buttons in. They all line up. We just get the plastic membranes out and we'll pop them into position. Them in all nice and tight. And then we just need the select and start buttons which go in the side there with the membrane that goes over the top. And we need to get one of these foamy sticky pads. We just need to peel off the tape from the side, make sure you put it in the right way, and then this just goes in perfect position. The great thing with these eXtremeRate shells are they've already been pre-cut, so you don't need to do any trimming inside. They're all set up for new IPS screens. So just pop it down. As you can see, it overlaps a little bit, but that's going to be okay. And then we just need to get our screen, so we just need to line up. So I only realised after I'd fitted it, but it does come with this plastic piece. So this plastic piece, I believe, goes at the bottom. So you'd fit your screen into position, as I'm showing now, and the plastic piece would go at the bottom and would give you the perfect distance. I didn't know this, so I had to kind of guess, but that is what you're supposed to do. Now we just need to remove the backing of this. So this is now double-sided, and then you should have your little piece of plastic at the bottom. Now I thought I was peeling off the screen protector here, but I wasn't actually. I only pulled off the tab, so I had to take it off a little bit later, which was a bit hard. So make sure you remove your screen protector. I didn't think mine had one, but it did. I only realised after it fitted. So I'm just trying to carefully line it up, make sure that it looks nice and square. But as I said, if you put the little plastic block at the bottom, then it will make this job a hell of a lot easier than what I've just done. Then you can push it into place, then pop the motherboard in. So there's 2 ribbon cables that you can select depending on what connector you've got. So it pops in to the motherboard in this orientation where it says game. That goes into the console with the copper traces facing out, and then if you flip it over, it goes in at the bottom. It also came with this little plastic protector. I wasn't really sure where it went again, so I kind of was guessing, but I'm pretty sure I guessed right, and it goes over the top between the IPS motherboard and the Gameboy Advance motherboard. So another double-sided pad. So I'll just pop this on the back of the motherboard and onto the back of the screen, so it makes it nice and secure and doesn't move. Then we just put the sidebars on, keep them nice and secure. Then this plastic piece just goes over the top of the motherboard, fits in nicely, and then we just put the Game Boy Advance motherboard over, and then this is going to be nice protection between the two. There's no chance that there's going to be any shorts. So I'm not a fan of the touch sensors, so what I'm going to do is this touch sensor normally goes to the top and you touch the screen, but they're very sensitive. So what your plan is to fold it back inwards, and then I'm going to attach a little bit of Kapton tape to it so that it can't be moved and it can't be touched. So next up we need to do the soldering to these wires. So as you can see on the screen, these are the pads that we need to solder to. So we just get a little bit of thin wire, solder to the pad. TP9 goes to the middle pad on the IPS screen motherboard. So we have this bottom one here, this TP2, this goes there. Then we'll solder across to the bottom pad. And then TP8, this gets soldered to the top pad. Now we can put this plastic housing back in, which we keep moving in and out, and then we can carefully bend over the motherboard. While we're doing this, we need to be very careful and route the wires into position. We don't want any getting trapped or broken. We just sort of move them around, get them in the best position possible so that we can line it all up. I'll just use my tweezers to push some of the wires into position. And then we just need to put 2 Phillips screws back in. So one on the right side, one on the left side. Make sure they're nice and tight so the motherboard doesn't wiggle. Put the outer switch cover on the switch. Make sure it's all lined up so it doesn't break it. Then we just need to sort out the shoulder buttons and the rear back shell. The shoulder buttons come with these metal tabs that go in to make sure that it springs back into place. They just simply push them in. And then we've got the battery terminal that needs a little bit of a spring bit put in, so the 2 tabs go in the holes there, and then it folds down, and then it hooks under the little hook at the end. And then all we need to do is slide that into position on the battery pack, and that will go into there. So we're able to use AA batteries. And then this metal piece goes on the inner side. We just take off the plastic coating, and we just need to get 2 screws, and they go on either side there. And then we just get the shoulder buttons, pop them into position, make sure they're nice and springy and they move in position, and then we're almost done. The backing on, clip it into place, sure it all goes in, the back buttons are lined up at the top. And then this is where I'm just going to open up the new screw pack so we can get some new rear screws out. So there's 6 tri-wing screws that need to go in the back. Pop all of them in. Now just give it a quick clean. We need to attach the new front screen, so we just peel off this double-sided tape. Make sure everything's nice and clean, pop it in position, push it down, and then hopefully we've got no dust between screen and glass screen protector. It comes with a nice eXtremeRate sticker, so just line this up, make sure you get it nice and centre, you don't want overhanging or overlapping anywhere. So it didn't do a brilliant job, but it didn't do a bad job either. Flip it on, and there we've got a lovely IPS screen, nice and bright. And if we hold the select button, the left shoulder button will change the colours, and the right shoulder button will change the brightness. So the touch sensor also does this, but I found that these are very sensitive and you can touch them by mistake. So I tend not to use them, I'd rather use the buttons. And then the final mod is we want to attach a rechargeable battery, which is USB-C. So this is all ready to go in, but as you can see, this is set up for batteries. So we need to snip out a little bit of the plastic so it can fit in. It won't be able to fit in as it currently stands. So I'll just get me snips, and I'll just need to cut this end piece of plastic off, cut along the edge, and then just snip it again at the bottom, making it nice and flush. We'll remove that piece nice and easy. And then we've got this shark fin here. It just needs a couple of snips. So 2 snips, and then there we go. It bounces out into the abyss. Simple as. We get the new battery back in. Just tuck the wire underneath the end. We push this springy bit there to make sure it makes the right connection. It sits nice and flush and nice and secure. Put the battery cover on. It sits perfectly fine. And then we give it a switch on, make sure that it works, which it does. And now we've got the ultimate Gameboy Advance. So here it is all done. So really brilliant, bright screen, no complaints over that. The shell itself, top quality as you'd expect. All the screws going nice and tight, nothing strips. It looks really nice. All the lines are nice and clean and tight. The A and B buttons look nice. We look at the shoulder buttons. It's a nice subtle grey that I've gone for, but I'm happy with the clear grey look. And overall I've got definitely no complaints. I'd highly recommend it. So don't forget the 10% discount code in the description if you want to get the eXtremeRate shell or anything else from eXtremeRate. And once again, thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.